Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. My name is Mary Morris, and I am a lector. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord swept the sea with a strong east wind throughout the night.
I'm here with Mary Morris from Our Lady of Sorrows, and Mary is a long-time lector and parishioner here at Our Lady of Sorrows in West River. So, Mary, what can you tell us just maybe a little bit about you and uh, your your role here at the parish?
Well, this was a summer house for us for many years, for my husband and I, and we found that every Sunday we were coming to go to mass here, even in the winter. The church was much smaller, about one third of the size it's now,
I
and we
remember.
we lived
Yeah.
through all of that, and we enjoyed it very much. And when we retired out here. So I we bought the property in 1978. We've been since 2002. We lived here. My husband passed away a few years ago, and he's in the cemetery waiting for me to join him, which will happen not too far from now, I expect. My background was basically I was a teacher and a volunteer. Uh, my husband sometimes referred to me as Big Bird. He said, "When are you going to land somewhere?" And I guess I never did, but I think I've pretty much landed here. My interest in reading just came naturally. I have an undergraduate degree is in English, and I taught English drama, and I also made costumes, and that's one of the books I wrote was on costuming. And I have been a lector since they let ladies on the altar, which is basically right after Vatican II. And it also was the beginning of doing the readings in English. I remember as a kid going and watching and not understanding at all what was being said because it was read in Latin.
How
And
did you how would you describe your vocation maybe as a lector? Like, did you always know that that's what you wanted to do? Did
well,
you feel like a
it's
calling? How did that evolve
well,
for you?
reading the spoken word has always been very important to me. And I was a teacher of English where I taught you to write, and then had speech and drama classes where I taught people to speak. I kind of got drafted the first couple of times, and I found I really enjoyed it. So I just have always loved doing it, and I love teaching it. It's been fun to watch people learn to do it, but to always the idea is communication, get it across. When they first started readings in English, there was this theory that you were supposed to proclaim it, and it was supposed to be all very strange, and nobody could understand it. And my feeling is good reading is good reading. The whole idea of reading is to get it across to somebody else and help them to understand. And so I've just enjoyed it and stayed with it.
What kind of, I guess, counsel or recommendations would you make to somebody that's interested in being a lector, but maybe is a little hesitant right now? Like, they're sitting there and they're seeing people like yourself
Mm.
doing the readings and think that may be for them, but they're still a little hesitant to get involved. What kind of
Well,
advice would you have for them?
I say volunteer, find someone to volunteer. If you like the way somebody reads, ask them how they got into it. But the biggest thing is you have to remember when you're reading, it's different than when you are writing down something and people can read from it. People don't hear as fast as they see. And so have you need to have a good understanding of what's. I brought my little Bible thing here. This is a handbook for readers,
Okay.
and it helps you with the words that are hard to understand. It gives you a phonetic spelling of it so you can learn that. And there are notes about what the reading's about. This is only for the Sunday masses and the feast days, but there are many, many possibilities that you can find to improve your knowledge of all of these things. And we need more. And I have discovered that I don't really understand the reading myself until I read it aloud. It's a little bit like my grandchildren, I guess. There's something about hearing it,
I agree.
and do not be afraid to be emotional. If the reading is emotional, then that's what you should be sharing with your audience, so that they can have that same feeling. Because of course we are human as well as uh, having a spiritual life, and we all have emotions, and Christ had emotions. He cried. He he went off to be by himself when he couldn't take it anymore to be having everybody yelling at him. He and so the more that we have that sense of our own humanity and a way of transporting it to somebody else, the more important and the more rewarding it is for us. It's not about performing, it's about communicating, getting it into the other person's mind.
No, that's very well said. Yes, because we want to read it, we want people to understand it, but like you said, we don't want to put our own spin on it or
Yeah.
anything like that. So yeah, uh, what does being a lector mean to you from a more maybe a more personal perspective, or as from a spiritual perspective?
Well,
Does it do anything for you spiritually?
oh, absolutely. I mean, as I said, that's when I understand it myself, which helps to get it across to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It is always, in fact, one of the nicer comments I got once was from a parishioner I'd been reading for a while, and he said, "I always enjoy your little sermons." Well, they're not sermons; they're readings, but that meant he was learning from them.
That's probably a good feeling. He was probably yeah he probably misspoke a little bit, but the intent
I
was
don't know.
pure.
He winked, so I think he knew what he was saying.
Are there any key points that you believe in for teaching lectors, teaching new lectors?
Yes, I always begin by having them read aloud, and I've worked with some pretty young ones. At least one or two were middle school; they were not even high school yet. And you have to hear what they do with it to start with, and then work from there. The things I often find that we have to start with the younger kids, particularly, but some adults as well, slowing down. They have to have time to digest it, the people that are hearing it. And you cannot count on the microphone to get everything to the people. You have to project. Slow down, project, and use the emotional appeal that let that come through, because even on the daily mass reading, some of them are extremely emotional, and that's wonderful. One of the greatest experiences I had was on a Good Friday a number of years ago. Those who don't get to the Good Friday ceremony
Service,
and,
yeah.
and service, it's really worth coming, because it's very, very emotional. You really do, and you just on it on the day. The spinning needle hit me for reading the gospel of the Passion, and it just happened to be one of those times I connected with a congregation, and I got them all riled up, and they got me all riled up. And it was magnificent, because they were, kill him, kill him, kill him, and I'm going, whatever, what way? I don't see anything wrong with him. Why should I kill him? And it was a very wonderful experience. And I think it was a wonderful experience for all of us. And then the capper was, we had, of course, uh, a member of the choir who sang, "Were you there when you crucified my Lord?" And that just put the capper on the whole thing. We were all in tears.
Yeah, he
It
had a
was,
very unique voice,
yeah,
real
very, yes, very
deep,
deep,
reverberating.
deep
I don't know what the right.
baritone, yeah.
Yeah,
And he
I,
was also a dentist.
I'm glad you brought up the youth too.
Yes. Well,
Um,
that's when you get them.
yeah, and we've recently had several of our young people serve as lectors for First Holy Communion, for
Yes.
confirmation. Um, we have had some for masses, and we're talking about trying to expand that a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not something. it's not something that our young people can't participate in. If
Oh,
they
no.
feel like they should
And
really give it a
soon
try.
after Vatican II, kids were encouraged. I know that my youngest daughter was a lector at her first communion, and that was back in the 70s. Well, I guess she may be the early 80s, and it was considered kind of being in the spirit of the Vatican II and getting people involved. And then they kind of pulled away from it, and I'm not sure why. But I'm glad to see that it's back because I think it is very important. I know my own kids did it as a way to connect with the church, and it was very important.
Yeah, that's one of the special things for me. My daughter was actually the lector at my ordination.
Lovely.
So that was,
Yeah.
That's a very, very special thing and a good
Well,
thing.
and my older daughter went to the University of Notre Dame, and she was a lector in the basilica there.
So, Mary, earlier in our conversation, you had brought up your lector book there, and what a valuable resource it is for you. Could you walk us through the process that you use to prepare to do a reading, and maybe give us an example of a reading?
Sure. I'm just to show you what it looks like, the inside. You can see that that footnote is like another essay in itself. That's the explanations where they talk about the moods, how you look at the reading and you think, what is the mood of the speaker, the one who's speaking in this? And then you need to figure out how you're going to get that across to your audience. And then it also lists out on the side any words that you might have or any suggestions they have for reading it aloud. Those I sometimes fight with when I read. It's going to be, that's a very personal thing for you, how that comes, but it's good to read it just to see what the idea is. One that I'm going to read is one of my absolute favorites because this is a very different one. When you're reading the Psalms and much of the Old Testament, keep in mind that many of these things are sung, which means they have melody, they have rhythm, and they are even more emotional than if we are speaking. It's a reading from the book of an Exodus as the sound. I mean, I think even those of us who don't speak Latin, we can figure out Exodus is about the exit, and it's the exit of the Jews from Egypt. The Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. And you lift up your staff, and with hand outstretched over the sea, split the sea in two, that the Israelites may pass through it on dry land. But I will make the Egyptians so obstinate that they will go in after them. Then I will give glory through Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots and charioteers. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I receive glory through Pharaoh and his chariots and charioteers." The angel of God, who had been leading Israel's camp, now moved and went around behind them. The column of cloud also, leaving the front, took up its place behind them, so that it came between the camp of the Egyptians and that of Israel. But the cloud now became dark, and thus the night passed, without the rival camps coming any closer together all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord swept the sea with a strong east wind throughout the night, and so turned it into dry land. When the water was thus divided, the Israelites marched into the midst of the sea on dry land, with the water like a wall to their right and to their left. The Egyptians followed in pursuit. All Pharaoh's horses and chariots and charioteers went after them, right into the midst of the sea. In the night watch, just before dawn, the Lord cast through the column of the fiery cloud upon the Egyptian force a glance that threw it into a panic, and he so clogged their chariot wheels that they could hardly drive. With that, the Egyptians sounded the retreat before Israel. because the Lord was fighting for them against the Egyptians. Then the Lord told Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may flow back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and their charioteers." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at dawn the sea flowed back to its normal depth. The Egyptians were fleeing head on toward the sea when the Lord hurled them into its midst. As the water flowed back, it covered the chariots and the charioteers of Pharaoh's whole army, which had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not a single one of them escaped. But the Israelites had marched on dry land through the midst of the sea, with the water like a wall to their right and to their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel on that day from the power of the Egyptians. One of the reasons why this is, I think, a very interesting reading, because it requires long breath holds. Notice the commas, periods, but you do need to know those things because that's what helps us to understand them. One of the things that as you grow in skill at reading orally, you do need to be, just like a singer, you need to work on your breathing. One of the most interesting exercises I learned in graduate school, and I've used it many times, just don't have to do it in public, but you lay down on the floor on your back and you say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. That's 86 years old and I can still do it. There, you could hear there's rhythm to that. It's the rhythm of the horses. It's the rhythm, the whole, the sea. And you want everyone listening to you to see the same picture you're seeing in your head. It's called Stanislavski's theatrical things from the great Russian actor. But if you picture what you're reading about, your audience will see it. If you're picturing only the page, that's what they're going to see, and it's not very interesting. But they all have special gifts, and you must understand what is the point the writer is trying to get across through this. And of course, here it's the idea that God is really determined to free the Israelites and keep them alive. There again, you have to go slowly enough so that people can absorb it. You have to speak it as clearly as possible so they can understand the words you're using. You will find that they will appreciate it and you'll hear from them, but that's not the idea. The idea is to make sure they get it.
I wanted to touch on one other thing that you made me think about. What do you think the time commitment is uh, to be a lector? Like both, so you don't have to read it every Sunday
No,
because our younger families,
no,
especially, they're
no.
really busy.
I usually our lectors read on a Sunday or a feast day, probably once or twice a month, and we could use more people, and we can use people of all ages. I am a great believer, having been a teacher of high school kids for many, many years. I know what they can do, and they can do a great deal. And it would be wonderful to have you come and share your experiences this way. And you don't have to make up a speech to do it. You can, I mean, you've got scripture, and no greater script writer than the scripture
That's
writers.
the truth. That's the truth. And then I guess there's probably a little bit of preparation at home, practice, some of the things,
Yes.
some of the pointers that you've given us.
As you get more experienced, you won't have to do as much of the practicing aloud. When I was working with a little junior high student from the parish here, I suggested that her mom use her phone to record the young lady when she was reading so she could hear for herself how fast she was going.
Hmm.
I frequently did that with the high school students.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I've done that myself.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until you said
Yeah,
something.
you get lovely feedback when the people really appreciate it. Another reason for the slowness, I beat that up because it's the mistake I see the most made. In our parish, we have many people who are having hearing problems, And people who have hearing problems often have a terrible time with anything transported over the electronic systems.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to learn how, and you can learn that from listening to yourself recorded too. Always remember there is a reason for commas, periods, all those things that tell us how the words are related to one another in a sentence. And so that also helps people to understand it. Also, do not be afraid to ask the celebrant to help you with words you don't know how to say, even after you read the nice little phonetic. Ask them, and sometimes they'll probably tell you, "Well, you're the only one in the church that's going to know it, so don't worry about it, but just do the best you can." But if you can do it, it's really very helpful. And that's another thing that you get from this, besides the pronunciation. They also put the reading in the context of history and sometimes of geography too. All of that is something that you can transport to
And
your.
all that's helpful. Father Zach and Father Joy, they always remind us, right? Context is everything.
Well, yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about him. It's his love of history comes through all the time. And I think that's really very helpful to know what was going on in the rest of particularly the Mediterranean world at the time that Jesus and his apostles were active.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for taking time out this morning to share your ministry with us. Thank you for your ministry. Well, it's certainly, I've been benefiting from it for years. Well, you used your time, talent, and treasures in a positive way. So.
Yes, I tried to.
All righty. Well, thanks again. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. And if you see Mary, please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to her more about this valuable ministry of being a lector.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. My name is Mary Morris, and I am a lector at Our Lady of Sorrows in Maryland, and our sister parish in the pastorate, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. I also am there frequently for daily mass, and I read there on occasion. And within the pastorate, we alternate some of the major feasts, and so I have also done readings at some of the feasts up there. And I want to encourage you to, if this sounds intriguing to you, to share the gospel with the members of your congregation, even to demonstrate to your own children how important it is to learn about these things and learn about the life of Christ and how we can. He tells us pretty expressly how we should behave, but we need to listen to it.